Singapore is president of the Jewish Institute for National Security of America. We have Michael Makovsky. Michael, great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, we just heard from the congressman on this topic as well. Secretary of State Rubio speaking at this joint press conference with Netanyahu. Let's take a listen to that.
The president's been very clear. Hamas cannot continue as a military or government force. And frankly, as long as it stands as a force that can govern or as a force that can administer or as a force that can threaten by use of violence, peace becomes impossible.
So the goal, of course, is not just to bring all the hostages home and make it to the next phase of the ceasefire, but a long-term peace in the Middle East. Can that happen if Hamas is in power?
No, there's no. I mean, the main, the source, the main threat, and the main threat to peace in the region is actually Iran, which we could get to, and I think that was also a very important part of Rubio's talks in Israel. But about a peace between Israel and Gaza, that's impossible, as Secretary of State Rubio said, with Hamas staying in power. And I think it's important to point out, what has changed with President Trump coming into office again. There's very little, if any, evident daylight between Israel and the United States. You have a Secretary of State coming to Israel. There's no misplaced moralizing to Israel, supporting Israel, but criticizing Israel. No, it's 100% we support Israel. Hamas cannot stay in power. The hostages have to come back, and if they don't come back, there's going to be hell to pay. And America is going to support Israel to help do what it can to remove the rest of the Hamas fighters. It's a real change from what we've seen since only a month ago when Biden was president.
Well, Netanyahu today announcing that he would convene the security cabinet to talk about phase 2 of the ceasefire. But this is the first major movement on those negotiations in weeks. Why do you think that is? And can Secretary Rubio get those talks moving again? How integral will Rubio be in this?
Well, I mean, it's Rubio and also Witkoff, the President Trump's personal envoy on this, is probably even more involved. But both of them and the president himself, I think there's some optimism. There should be some optimism going on because we should feel that because President Trump made this threat the other day and said all the hostages out, all of them out by Saturday, meaning yesterday, at 12 o'clock or hell to pay, which apparently he meant he'll let Israel do whatever it needs to do in Gaza. And you could see that if Netanyahu wanted to get out of this, he could have used that statement, all the hostages out, as the president said, or we're not going to continue these talks. But Netanyahu didn't say that. They continued with the agreement that was negotiated by Witkoff. And I think the reason is because Israel wants to get the rest of the hostages, especially the ones that are alive, out as much as possible.
Right.
So
yeah. And we are just wrapping up phase 1 of the ceasefire. And then as phase 2 happens, the remaining hostages will be released. The ceasefire becomes permanent and all Israeli forces are expected to withdraw. And then if it doesn't crumble before we get to phase 3, the remains of the dead hostages would be returned. Of course, we don't know how many are even still living. And the reconstruction of Gaza would begin. So we know that Secretary Rubio is going to be talking about Trump's plan to relocate these nearly 2 million Palestinians that are currently living in Gaza and around the areas. So what's his best course in selling Trump's audacious idea?
Yeah. Well, look, as you pointed out at the beginning, all the Arabs countries are strongly against it. I give President Trump a lot of credit for thinking out of the box, and also I think dispelling certain myths. Trump is looking at the Palestinian people, said, how could they live in such an awful state? We have to move them somewhere. When I think for a lot of Arab countries, the Palestinians are not really a people, they're a cause that they think is useful for them domestically or whatever. And I think Trump has really exposed that so many Arab governments have really kind of found it a useful vehicle, and I think it also was useful in a couple other ways because I think it signaled like there's not going to be a two-state solution right now. That's off the table right now in Gaza. That was something that Biden kept pushing, and Trump basically said, no, that's not really realistic right now. And I think, thirdly, it gives Netanyahu some more wiggle room to, with his coalition to go ahead with the ceasefire agreement, where he has opposition within the coalition to continue when you have a president of the United States being so supportive of Israel's position. And
Right.
I think it allows, I mean, we don't know what's going on fully, but perhaps, if things don't proceed and there isn't going to be this relocation, it's unlikely that Trump's vision is going to actually come about. But I think it will allow Israel then to go back in. And if I could say one last thing,
Sure.
I think the big issue with Rubio, we're all focused on the Gaza deal for understandable reasons. But I think the major strategic issue for Israel and the United States, which clearly were part of the talks with Rubio, is Iran. And Rubio was very clear. Mike Waltz, the national security advisor on Fox, said it very clearly. They cannot allow a nuclear Iran. And I think the fact that you have America senior officials stating that very clearly is very important, because that issue, whether Israel might attack Iran in the coming months, is going to be, I think, the most pressing issue for the region right now. It's going to dwarf Gaza. So we'll see. But I think it's very helpful for Israel and American interests that there's such support for Israel on this.
And the Prime Minister Netanyahu, he seemed almost giddy about his relationship with Trump. He was just gushing today, according to our Robert Sherman, in an email that he sent through to our story coverage, that he's got relationships with Trump and Secretary of State Rubio, and also Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and they seem to be in lockstep moving forward. We'll see what comes of the meeting. He's in the Middle East. Rubio is until Tuesday. You're the CEO and president of the Jewish Institute for National Security of America. Michael Makovsky, thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much. Have a good Sunday.